Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats.
You know, boys and girls, sometimes it's those simple ideas that really end up surprising you and being a hell of a lot of fun. And you know what? From one simple idea to another, if you are within the sound of my voice, that must mean you are in the seats with once more. As always, my name is Dave Voigt, and I'm the host of this podcast where we sit down with a wide-ranging variety of industry professionals, and we pick their brain about current projects, state of the industry, how they got started, and so very much more in a light and conversational fashion. And if you like how we do things around here, I'm going to guess that you do. You're actually listening. You can go subscribe to the podcast. You can find us over at Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Google, basically wherever you get your podcasts. And plus, we archive every single one of our episodes over at our In the Seats YouTube channel. So if you can give us a like and subscribe there as well, we would really appreciate it. Also, don't hesitate to check us out on social media. You can find us on the Facebook, the Twitter, and the Instagram at either at In the Seats or at It's Podcast One for all sorts of fun updates. And finally, and I repeat myself a lot, but it's true, this is most important, please come pay us a visit over at In the Seats, intheseats.ca for all the latest and greatest from the world of film, television, and beyond. If it's the moving image and we're writing about it and talking about it, we love it when you come by and read about it and listen about it. So please pay us a visit. On this episode, we got a fun one. We got one that, I didn't expect to enjoy as much as I did. It's on video on demand platforms as we speak, and it's called The Jack in the Box Awakening. Now, I know what you're saying. That sounds like a sequel title, and technically, yes, there was an original Jack in the Box. But this is not a direct sequel. This is sort of happening in the same universe. And it's the story of a terminally ill heiress who acquires a mysterious Gothic box containing a captured demon, Jack. The powerful entity within makes a deadly deal with Olga and her devoted son, Edgar. Deliver him 6 victims, and Olga will live. The mother-son duo end up trapping several unsuspecting victims for him within this crumbling Gothic mansion that we find ourselves in the story. But can they deliver all 6 victims before it ends up being too late? Or will the young and innocent Amy, who just got hired to look after the estate, turn out to be more formidable than Olga, Edgar, and even Jack even realized? You know what? This is a fun movie, and it's if you like your horror with a little bit of a wink and a nod to it, this is an excellent piece of cinema that is really well done, and just a fantastic piece of indie cinema as well. And we had the distinct pleasure of sitting down with writer-director Lawrence Fowler, the brainchild between the Jack in the Box cinematic universe, as it were. And we had a little bit of fun. We asked about the origins of the story and the making of this one, and so very much more. I hope you enjoy our talk, because it was a good one.
Now, I mean, obviously, congratulations on the movie, man. I got a hell of a kick out of it. And I mean, in doing my research, I actually went back to the original because I was wondering, is this a sequel? What's going on? Walk me through, I guess, maybe the origin of the conceit for the story, because it's one of those ideas for a horror movie where I'm like, why has nobody done this earlier? It seems like it's such a brilliant idea to have the Jack in the Box as sort of the icon. I loved it, man.
Yeah, so Jack in the Boxes, the origins of which are not entirely crystal clear. There's different theories, everything from it stemming from a sort of legend of a demon trapped in a boot and evolving from there. And obviously you got the kind of idea of it just started off as a children's toy, and and it still is today. It's just all these different kind of contrasting ideas that what we did is we took what we liked out of each of them, sort of put them all together, add a little bit of sort of creepy clown demon lore in there as well, and you've got the recipe for the Jack in the Box film.
Now, I mean, obviously with this new one, it part of it feels like an origin story, but it does. But I love setting it in a very sort of this Gothic sort of setting and just having this sort of isolation to it. Like, walk me through, I guess, Jack in the Box Awakening in sort of this chapter, which, I mean, again, it's not a prequel, it's not a sequel, it's just sort of another installment in sort of the universe of Jack in the Box, right?
Yeah, exactly. Something we really set out to do with this one was have it kind of as a standalone film. really didn't want it to be a case of if people missed the first one, they would be completely lost in the, in the story. So with this one, we got a completely fresh set of characters from the first one. We go into, as you said, Jack's origins a little bit. I mean, early iterations of the script were a pure sort of origin tale. I think even the working title at one point was Jack in the Box, Origins. So we moved away from that slightly as time progressed, but the key aspects of understanding where the box came from, the purpose of it being created, why and how does the Jack come to be? They're little questions that I thought people may be interested in finding out. So still found their way into this sequel too.
Now, I mean, something about really not just this film, but I mean, even both the films that I really enjoyed is that it's not trying to do too much. And I mean, what I mean by that is there aren't any sort of overt special effects. Everything is in camera. Everything is about sort of what's going on in the viewer's head as opposed to trying to give something splashy on the screen. How important is it for you as a filmmaker to be able to do stuff like that and sort of get imaginations rolling rather than trying to sort of lean on a visual effects shot that you may not have the money for?
Exactly right. I think unless you've got top end Hollywood budgets, anything that isn't practical is just not going to stack up. And I think the idea of the Jack in the Box is quite outlandish. It's demons, it's magical elements. There's so much of it that you ask the audience to take a leap of faith with, that if you can ground the character itself in as much reality as you can, you're going to give yourself a better chance of it being a story that people can invest their time and their kind of beliefs in. That okay, this is a kind of real world. I can get behind. So absolutely, practical effects, really, I'm a really big fan of them. And something that we transitioned away from in the first film is the fact that we built this, really nice box, this practical box that everybody loved, and then we wanted this effect where the handle turned by itself. And I think we made the mistake. We went with a CGI handle, and we got some feedback on the film, and we thought, next time we have to keep it all practical. So this time we motorized the handle. It turns by itself. It's really creepy. And yeah, it's just, it's a small touch, but it makes a huge difference. And I agree with you 100%. If you can do it practical, do it.
For sure. Now, and I mean, I love just sort of how you cast the film and the characters in the story, because I mean, it very much is sort of an archetypal horror story with the mother who's dying and the son wants to take care of him. Walk me through, I guess, finding the right people for the right roles, because I mean, honestly, in something like this, if you don't have somebody who is like menacing but also sniveling at the same time, and then sort of scary but sympathetic, like all these characters have to sort of run through a pretty wide gamut of emotions.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really wanted to make sure that we got the casting right, as you do with every film. But if you're looking to cast the Jack, you need someone with very unique set of unique body shape, unique set of skills. James Swanton, who we cast as the Jack, is just an amazing creature performer, been in lots of creature roles before and can really use his body in a way that's just otherworldly. And it's absolutely perfect. And then, as you mentioned, the character of Edgar, the sniveling, kind of slimy mother's boy. We really, really looked hard to find the right guy. In Matt McClure, we certainly found him. Amazing acting choices throughout working with him. He's possibly the most prepared actor I've ever worked with. Turned up with an immense amount of notes, asked all the correct questions just to try and get into the head of that character, and immensely committed. But in terms of finding them, we put casting calls out. Not a huge fan of auditions. I've held them in the past, and I've often kind of felt sometimes you get a performance in an audition that when the cameras start rolling for real, you sometimes see a different side that kind of frees up a little bit. So I'm a big fan of watching show reels, trying to see what people do in front of, the real cameras, the real lights, and see what they bring on the day. So that's that process.
Now, I mean, was this location or was this sets? Because I mean, there are some shots in this film which I absolutely loved. I mean, I think particular, like some of the shots in the attic where you're using the long focus with the lights and Jack's coming closer, that kind of thing. Was that something you found, or was that something you designed?
So the script was written about a scene like that, but no, that particular scene, and let's say 90% of the scenes are a real countryside English manor house that we had the pleasure of filming in. And we did do some set stuff. I mean, when you start doing The film's not got a huge amount of blood in it, but we do start throwing blood around kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
You can imagine some of these manor owners are not huge fans of that. So sometimes it calls for a set build where you can go a little bit crazy with the blood, and there's no concerns other than a little bit of cleanup at the end. But so you're not ruining, priceless antiques and walls and furniture. So 90% real locations with a touch of set build, just to go a bit crazy with the blood.
Now, I'm curious from your perspective, like especially in the horror genre, there is a long track record of possessed things, or like inanimate objects, dolls, Jack in the Boxes, what have you, that have been told in various stories. But when we see this sort of object, it always adds that extra layer of sort of dread and sort of sinisterness to it. Is it the tactile nature of it actually being there? Because, I mean, you could say there's a demon, but if you don't see it, it doesn't necessarily sort of equate. Like, from your perspective, what is this about having these totems of horror that make it that much more creepy when we watch these films?
Really sorry, you dropped out a little bit there. Would you mind repeating the question? Sorry.
Oh, just
sorry if that hurt you. Sorry.
It really does come down to, because there's a history of like totems in horror movies, be they dolls, be they Jack in the Boxes, whatever. Right. What is it from your perspective that makes sort of these totems that much more creepy? Because, I mean, I really find in these films, when there's something tactile, it gets that much more scary, rather than just sort of some demon or some ghost that we may not have sort of a clear-cut form of. Yeah,
I know. It's a strange one. And then I think a lot of people are finding the doll, for example, rather creepy. And for me, it's a case of, perhaps they're close to life, but not quite. There's the kind of the uncanny, there's something about the doll, the way you look at it, that it is close to human, but there's just something not right about it. And something we learned along the way, our first feature film was a doll-focused movie. And I think our approach for that was a little bit wrong. I think we went to try and make it scary, and it didn't have the effect we wanted. I think what we learned along the way is get something close to reality as you can, but have it with a cold stare. Have it something creepy. Go for creepy rather than outright scary. And you're right, there's just something about these things that, and clowns as well. There's just something about these things that they're almost human, but not quite.
What other possibilities do you think there are for the Jack in the Box universe? Like, are we going to get a Jack in the Box in space? Do you think there's a viable way to do something like that?
Who knows? We certainly enjoy making these films, and the reception to them seems great. I have no idea. We've got to try and keep it fresh every time. And in space would certainly be fresh. So never rule anything out.
Filmmaking, though, that'd be tough.
It certainly would be. Yeah, it absolutely would be. But I don't know. Jack on a beach. I don't know. Something.
Hey.
There you go. Hawaii. Jack in Hawaii.
I love it.
I certainly hope and think that the character in the series has a bit more legs. And we're hoping to make a third, potentially fourth. Who knows what the future holds, but certainly a third, we hope.
Well, touch wood for sure, man. And I mean, I guess my next question is, and this is always a silly one, but I always like to ask this of people. Can you think back to sort of the younger days, and like, what were the movies or even sort of movie moments that kind of got you into this business?
Fairly late on, actually. I was at college and I'd made some short films and stuff. I knew it was something I was interested in doing, but when I sat down and watched The Dark Knight for the first time, I was 18.
Nice. Okay.
That was a game changer. That was okay. I was captivated by it. I was fascinated with how they made it. I needed to understand every single part of that film and how it was made. So that really ignited my passion for filmmaking. And it's the reason I've pursued it all these years. What
is it about the horror genre, from your perspective, that allows for such an easy entry for filmmakers who are maybe just starting out? Because it always seems like people cut their teeth sort of in the horror genre, and then they'll either stay in horror or they'll move on. How do you see yourself going forward? Or do you strike yourself as a horror guy, or is there sort of more in your wheelhouse going forward?
Yeah, I think that's true of me too. I think my story was I had a few contexts that, exactly like you're saying, sort of started off making horror, and it is a genre that really does appeal to a lot of people, and it seems to do very well in the indie space. So I have for a very long time been a fan of horror. I never saw myself as the horror guy, as in like
Right.
I didn't want to be just the horror filmmaker. But when I started making horror films, and quite rightly, it did give me a gateway into the industry. I had this thing where I'd make what I'd make too, and I enjoyed them so much. I was so fueled by both the successes of it and also the failures of it, kind of learning from my lessons, that although we'd start developing sci-fi and other genres, I kept kind of thinking, yeah, but if we did another one, I'd probably do this different and it'd be 10 times better. And it's very difficult to get away from that. So I think here we are, however many years later I've been doing this. It's still very early in my career, but I don't intend to stop doing horrors anytime soon, but I would like to do other things alongside it too.
Well, you know what, man? I can't wait to see what you got next, because I think especially with this film, and even the first film, there's an honesty and there's an earnestness to it, because like you said, sort of the conceit and the idea in and of itself is a little bit silly, but you own it. The film owns it, and then the universe owns it, and you buy in, and you sort of embrace the narrative, and you embrace everything that's going on, and it makes for a hell of a fun ride. And I just want to say, congrats on the film, and thank you so much for the time today, man. This was fun.
Oh no, thank you so much. I'm really pleased you enjoyed it, and you're very kind about the film, which is always great. But thanks for having me on.
Cheers, man.
And don't forget to visit our friends over at Bay Street Video for all your DVD, Blu-ray rental, or purchasing needs this summer, as they are still open for curbside and some mailing delivery as well. Over at 1172 Bay Street, Toronto, Ontario, Canada, you can give them a call at 416-964-9088. That's 416-964-9088. Or send them an email at baystreetvideoto@gmail.com for any of your DVD and Blu-ray needs.